As the calendar flips to December, there's things to remember when it comes to November. Some good, some bad, but mainly the good when it comes to Martin Necas, and the bad, well, unfortunately, came against the Florida Panthers. So there's a lot to be thankful for and to remember for when it comes to your Carolina Hurricanes on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I'm also the co-host of the Search Cast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a first show of December for you guys here on a Monday, as we will get my thoughts and recaps from the Florida Panthers back-to-back games against the Carolina Hurricanes, which for your Canes wasn't the greatest, so we'll not go over both games individually, but we're talking about what were the big takeaways from both of those games. I'll also get some perspective from Rod Brendamore after Saturday's game, because I still think there's something to take away from that. And then we also get to talk about Martin Necas at the end of the show, which goes over how he was the first star of the month of November. But before we jump into all things to remember, and kind of hopefully not want to remember, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Now, we kind of have to start off with the Panthers games because, the last show we did, of course, the last show that was for November was for Friday, previewing that afternoon's game against the Florida Panthers, which was the first game of a back-to-back after post-Thanksgiving, where your Carolina Hurricanes beforehand did beat the Dallas Stars in the comeback on that Monday, and then on Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eve, did come back against New York Rangers 4-3. So you're feeling kind of good. A lot of people didn't think that the Hurricanes were going to be okay for last week, for the fact that you're looking at the gauntlet of one of the best teams in the West. You still have the New York Rangers being the New York Rangers despite being a losing streak. And then you have the defending Cup champions coming to town for a first of a back-to-back, where you have to go to their barn the next day on Saturday. So the hope was at least get a win, maybe get some points throughout those 4 games. And all things considered, last week you did get 4 of a possible 8. So there's some good to take away from it. Yes, you went 500 for the week, but you'll gladly take whatever points you can get, especially when one of those games was against a division rival in the New York Rangers, which is always a big 4-game, 4-point swing if you want to look at it like that. But also it gives you an indication of what how you fare against a Western Conference team like the Dallas Stars, who's playing really well in the Central Division. But then reality came in and wanted to reassure the Hurricanes of how things are going to go, especially when you go up against a team like the Florida Panthers, who are leading the Atlantic Division and are defending Stanley Cup champions, and show why they won the Stanley Cup last year. And it was a couple games where you would really want to kind of look back on the tapes, see what happened, know what happened, and then instantly burn them and forget about it and move on. But the thing that really stood out was the fact that the Hurricanes got outscored 12-3 in both games. Got 3 in game 1. Unfortunately, got shut out in game 2, but Florida put up 6 in both games. Overall, you can't really put all of the goals on Spencer Martin, but it's still kind of rough to watch. When you look at how some of the goals were you can tell that there's where you wish you had your top 2 goalies, or at least one of your top 2 goalies back, to know how to kind of play certain reads, especially for the fact that when you have a shorthanded goal against you in game 1, where they could have played shooter or could have played the guy on the back door, but unfortunately didn't really work out too well, or some other instances of looking in certain directions of screens, or it's like I said, it's one of the things where you can't put all of it on Martin, but it's also kind of tough to put it. You can definitely tell this team played very differently in front of him, especially how Florida plays, because Florida is they will grind you into the ground and they will be very physical with you and basically almost do pot shots the entire game, which don't really get called a whole lot. And then if you retaliate, then you get something against you. But this was just a 2-game set where it seemed like everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Hurricanes. And granted, yes, they did score, like I said, 3 goals in the first game. You're kind of feeling okay about yourselves. It's one of those things where it's just you could have wished those games went a little bit better, especially the game on Friday. It's right after Thanksgiving. Early on, Florida got the goal. You get a power play goal to tie it up with Seth Jarvis. It's like, okay, you're back in it. Then yes, the big boys of Reinhart and Verhaeghe score, not great. And then in the second period, you're feeling okay. You're only down 2 goals. It's not that bad. You've seen this team come back before. We saw it against Dallas. We saw it against the Rangers. And it's like, okay, they're only down by 2 goals. They're kind of shown that they're in this game. That they're out shooting 10-7. Yes, you're down 3-1, but you're still feeling that there's still some magic in the Hurricanes. And then you saw in the second period, great board battle by Shane Gostisbehere, got to Jack Roslovic, who found Sean Walker at the top of the zone, rips a nice wrist shot, goes top shelf. Okay, awesome. And then you see Jackson Blake doing his thing, sets up Jalen Chatfield, who puts a bomb on the shot, right from the point. Eric Robinson right place, right time tips it. Okay, now it's 3-3. You're going into the third period. Game's tied. You're out shooting them 22-17. Like, okay, back in this game, the Hurricanes are feeling themselves. You're kind of feeling okay. They were down. They tied it up. We've seen the story before this week. And then it just all unraveled in the third period. You saw the fact that just AJ Greer, just bad puck control in the neutral zone, gives them an opportunity to go down and score. Then, like I said, the Anton Lundell goal, shorthanded. Nothing you can do about that. And then, unfortunately, Sam Bennett with the empty netter. That's one of those games where it's like, okay, you kind of wish you had that third period back, but there was still some good to take away from it, where you didn't roll over and die against the Panthers, to where it's like, okay, you were down, you came back, you still found a way to tie the game up, you're out shooting them, you're kind of matching physicality, you're not really getting to the retaliatory penalties, you're playing your game, and you're making it work, and you're, special teams, you unfortunately give them a shorthanded goal at the third period, but you did get a power play goal of your own. It's just one of those things where that third period just got away in terms of it seemed like almost every shot was just going in for the third. It is what it is. Then you go into the second game against the Florida Panthers. Now, you're still feeling pretty good about yourselves because, after the first period, it's 0-0. You're out shooting them 11-9, just like game one. You're like, okay, cool, no worries. It's pretty close. Nothing wrong with that. Florida scores, comes off the board, offsides. Fine. Aaron Ekblad scores. Unfortunate, 6:42 into the period. You thought Martin was acting like it was goaltender interference. It wasn't. Goal was clean. Okay, it's 1-0. Then with a second left, unfortunately, you give Matthew Samoskevich an opportunity for the Panthers to score with less than a second left in the period. Very late. Definitely a backbreaker goal. But you know what? Hey, it's 2-0 going into the last period. Like I said, we've seen this team come back before. Yes, it's a backbreaker for a power play goal, but hey, what can you do? And the thing is, you're not really looking bad. Yeah, you got outshot 10-7, but you're still up. It's 19-18 in terms of shots on goal. No big deal. You're still kind of in it. You're down by 2 goals. There's still some momentum going on. Yes, that goal stunk, very late for Samoskevich, but you're still in this game. You still have a shot to do something about it. And then it was an absolute free fall in the last period. And I think that whole period deserves its segment on its own. So just stick with me, guys. We're going to talk about that third period and give my real thoughts on how that just really unraveled for the Hurricanes. So stick around as we'll talk about the last period and give my overall thoughts of just how all that went sideways for the Hurricanes on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Gametime is a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, we're not talking about just sports. We're also talking about concerts, comedy, theaters, and so much more. And with their all-in pricing, it's a feature that you can toggle to show you your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. One of my favorite features is their seat viewfinder because you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. So you don't have to worry about awkward angles or obstructive views. It's all taken care of for you with this viewfinder. And let's be honest, you want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, and you can do that with Gametime. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONAHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms of Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Well, it's game time. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. Like I said, the end of segment 1, basically that third period of the Hurricanes game on Saturday deserved a segment on its own, because it's a lot to go through, and it really gives you an overall view of just how this game really went sideways for the Carolina Hurricanes and just the two games overall. So you're going into the period. It's 2-0. You just gave up a backbreaker to Mackie Samoskevich. It is what it is, but you're still within the game. Shot totals are pretty much close by. You can figure out, okay, you find a way to get back into it. Game's pretty chippy for the most part. You've got Seth Jarvis going against Aaron Ekblad, because, guys, it's one of those things where these two teams just don't like each other, and there's always some jawing and stuff, which is very warranted for the fact that Seth Jarvis is not going to get pushed around, especially from guys like Aaron Ekblad. So that's got going on. And then later on in the game, playing some defense, Sam Bennett lost the puck. Jalen Chatfield, just trying to bump him off to get him away from the net. Unfortunately, Sam Bennett decided to throw a unnecessary shoulder hit to Jalen Chatfield, which knocked him off his feet, and then Spencer Martin. Luckily, both those guys were okay. But then that started a whole brouhaha, and you got to give credit to Jesperi Kotkaniemi for, sticking up for his teammates, got in there, went after Bennett. Unfortunately, he got called on for retaliation penalty, while Bennett did get called for interference. So instead of being on a power play, it turned into a 4-on-4 situation. But hey, you got to give props to Jesperi for sticking up for his teammates on what was relatively an unnecessary shoulder hit to Jalen Chatfield. Like I said, luckily Martin and Chatfield are okay. But it was basically pretty chippy for the most part. A lot of jawing, a lot of guys going at each other. Of course, it's no surprise because of the team like, Bennett and Tkachuk. You always know there's something going on too. And of course, later on, Martin, Tkachuk got too close to Martin. Martin didn't appreciate it, kind of whacked him with a stick. Then, with the fact that Tkachuk hits him right back, you get another, kerfuffle, a little scuffle going on too. So you can definitely tell it was good. I wouldn't be surprised if there was going to be a fight. Unfortunately, the third period, it just did not go that way for the Hurricanes, as they had a total of 2 shots in the third period against the Florida Panthers 16, and the Panthers had 2 power play goals in this period, and that's out of the 4 that they had in that period. Unfortunately, Sam Bennett scored. You hate to see it, especially when him coming out of the penalty box. Lucia Ryan found him all alone, buried it. What can you do? Alex Barkov, backdoor, all alone. I think it was Kotkaniemi that came in late. Unfortunately, at that point, there's nothing you can do. It's just one of the situations where Florida was able just to capitalize, and they were able to score the goal. Actually, I'm sorry. That was Seth Jarvis who came in late on that, but other than that, nothing you can really do. Barkov was just in the right place at the right time. Backdoor, no one's going to stop that. Now in the first game, you had Jesper Boquist score for the Florida Panthers. This game, his brother Adam scored his first of the season. That made it 5-0 that was like 11 seconds apart. So you just knew at that point, Sam Bennett, 3-0. Okay, that's a little bit of a deficit. Still can try to make a comeback. Once it's 4-0, you think it's pretty much over. 11 seconds later, there's 5. Okay, this is really out of reach. And then not even 2 minutes later, Evan Rodriguez, another power play goal from Nate Schmidt and Carter Verhaeghe, 6-0. That's all she wrote. And that's when Spencer Martin got pulled after the 5th goal against Boquist. Jan Pretz comes in, gets scored on Evan Rodriguez. And now the Panthers got 3 out of 6 in the power play. And the Panthers in this game, in the second and third period alone, they outshot the Hurricanes 26-9. And in the fourth period, they scored 4 goals compared to the Hurricanes' 2 shots. That is probably the worst 40 minutes of hockey I've seen in a long time for the Hurricanes, for the fact that, yes, it's the Florida Panthers. They're a tough team, but you cannot put up 9 total shots in 2 periods. That's just not what the Hurricanes do. You're used to them putting up like 10, 11, 12 shots a period. You're looking at 30, 40 shots by the end of the game. The Hurricanes, like I said, they got outshot 35-20 in that entire game, and they put up 9 in the last 2 periods. I understand you're tired, you're on a back-to-back, but so is Florida. Florida was also you just played them the day before in Raleigh, so both teams traveled. There was really no excuse. I know it doesn't help too. You have Spencer Martin in the net again, which shows that maybe the Hurricanes aren't really ready for Jan Pretz to start a game yet. So you have to hope that Pierre Tkachuk is ready to go. But this is just a game where there's really no excuse for you to get outshot like that to that bad of a deficit, where it's 16-2 in the last period alone. They had more goals than you had shots. Yes, it was a rough game, but that was a total lack of just defense wasn't there. Shooting opportunities weren't there. We talk about how this team doesn't really have quit. I wouldn't say the team necessarily quit. That was the game where it was just they were once the fourth goal went in, you could just tell that the energy was zapped. I couldn't even say probably when the third goal went in, the energy was just gone. And you were just waiting for that period to end. And that's kind of what it felt like after you went down 5-0 with 2 goals in 11 seconds. That's just, it's definitely a frustrating game to watch. I know it's more frustrating for those guys. And Rod Brind'Amour and Jordan Stoll even said it too. That was a rough game, and that was a very rough way to watch it. And it's just, you can't do that. I know it's the defending Cup champions, but they really brought you back down to earth, where I'm hoping this doesn't break the team and it sets them on a bad streak. But it's one of those things where you have to understand, okay, yeah, you know where you're at now. The Florida Panthers are on another tier, and you have to figure out how to get it done. If you had Pierre Tkachuk off, maybe take one of those games. Maybe one of them is a little bit closer. Maybe take one of them to overtime. Who knows? But this is definitely a gut check for the Hurricanes. Okay, if we really want to be the team that's surprising everyone and wants to make a run, we got to figure something out. I think this is those type of games where it's like, okay, we got to figure something out, because the last thing you want to do is get embarrassed like that. Again, getting outscored 12-3 after you just won back-to-back game against Dallas and the Rangers, and in the second game you get blown out 6-0 with a very abysmal third period. You give up 3 power play goals, and you just got basically ran out of a building. So I don't know. It's just tough to see. It stinks, but what can you do? It's just, you got to, just watch the tape, understand what happened, burn it, and move on. So, we heard from Rod Brind'Amour post-game, so let's listen to that right now and get his thoughts on how his team did in the last game against the Florida Panthers right now.
Scoreless game after the first 20 minutes. What do you feel the turning point was in this one?
Well, it's pretty obvious. At the end of the second there, that can't happen. We just kind of fell asleep, and that's a backbreaker. Even the first one, we run into our own goalie kind of, and now all of a sudden, a game that was fairly even, all of a sudden we're behind, and then we just never got going from there.
We've talked a lot about puck management lately. Did you see that as an issue again tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, amongst a bunch of other things, but yeah, that was part of it. We just, didn't get it in enough and played in our own end way too much. And I mean, I can go on and on, to be honest with you, but it was really wasn't bad after two. It was a fairly even game. It was just in the third, just fell apart on us.
We had talked after the first 40 minutes, and you kind of talked about this group needing to not take as many penalties. What do you feel the primary concern was with that area?
Well, in general, it just takes all the momentum out of it. I think I mentioned after the second there, you just can't take those penalties. Like, there's no reason to. And, unfortunately, we keep doing it. So that's it definitely caught up with us tonight. And, it is what it is. We got to, shelf this one and, get ready. The games keep coming.
What is the best way to move on from these last 48 hours?
Well, you turn the page. I mean, we're always focusing on the next day, and like I always said, it's you learn from it. This is good. I mean, we definitely got to take our medicine here and knock us down a few notches and get regrouped again and start again. We got a great team. We know that, but when you don't play as a team, don't do the little things, that's what happens.
Big thank you to Rod Burnmore of the Carolina Hurricanes for that. And yeah, you just heard it from him himself. It's like, first two periods were fine. Yeah, you kind of fell asleep late for the second goal from Samoskevich, but you're still in it. It's pretty close. And then, unfortunately, just taking unnecessary penalties in the third period kind of just, fell apart. And, Rod said it too. It knocked you down a few notches. It makes you now you have to regroup and get back together and figure it out. And that's all you can really do for the Hurricanes. Am I worried? No. They're still 16-7-1. You're still a point back of the Devils for second place with like 3 games in hand. You're still 2 points back of the Capitals, which you have played the same amount of games, but you're still right there. You're still third place in the division. You're 2 points back of the lead. We're 24 games in an 82-game season. There's still a lot of time left. I'm not super worried about it. Does goaltending need to be addressed? Yes, probably. Will it? I think they're waiting for Pierre Kacheka to come back, and then maybe they're going to wait until Freddie comes back. I'm still of the feeling that we might not see a move because the Hurricanes aren't a knee-jerk reaction team, so I'm not really sure how that's going to work out. But but it's just one of those things where, hey, it happens. You get games like that, and you just got to move on and be ready. And, of course, they got to be ready for Tuesday against the Seattle Kraken, which we'll go over for the Tuesday episode where we preview that game against the Seattle Kraken. But unfortunately, it is what it is. Just got to learn and move on from that. So it's just, do we hit the panic button? No. But do we realize that maybe we still have some to work on to be ready to play guys like the Florida Panthers? Definitely. But I think with a team like Rod Burnmore that's led by him, they'll be ready to go for the next game and just, they'll be ready to come back from adversity and find ways to play Hurricanes hockey. Now, with all that out of the way, we do have to talk about Martin Necas in the great month of November that he had. So stick around as we'll go over that here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with just a little less 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. You think Connor McDavid will get more than half a goal next week? Do you think Austin Matthews might get more than 2.5 shots in the next game? Well, you can cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this hockey season when you and your crew run your game on PrizePicks. Now, for me, do I think that Jack Hughes might have more than 4 shots in the game? Or do I think that maybe you'll have more than 1.5 points for Martin Necas? Well, you can do that with PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineups. PrizePicks, you can run your game. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. And we got to talk about Martin Necas, like I said, at the end of segment 2, because he was officially announced as the first star of November for the NHL, and for the fact that he led all skaters with 22 points in 15 games. And as of right now, he sits second in the league with 37 points, one behind Kirill Kaprizov of the Minnesota Wild at 38. But talk about just a phenomenal month for Martin Necas. Like I said, you get 22 points. You did it in 15 games. Led skaters in all that categories. And you're finding ways to have multi-point games. After having a 13-game goal streak snapped, he goes and has another 4-game point streak after having a 13-game point streak. So, in the fact that outside of that one game, he was finding ways to, missed one, went right back into another one, then making it work, and then unfortunately, this last game against the Florida Panthers is once again got snapped. Both games really against them because it's just one of those things where they targeted Martin Necas all series for both games. So unfortunately, his streak got snapped once again at 4. But overall, you have to appreciate what Martin Necas has done for the Carolina Hurricanes and the fact that he has been leading the team. He's been consistent. 12 multi-point games in the first 22 of the season. Almost setting new pace records for the team. Like he had more points in less games than even guys like Eric Stahl did it, who went on to have a 100-point season back in the 2005-2006 season. And he's still in a good spot to where you're talking possibly an Art Ross in terms of points. He's one back of Kaprizov. He's still within the fight with McKinnon and Eichel and all those other guys too. And you still can't say that he shouldn't be part of Hart conversations, because when you're talking about an MVP-like player who's playing really well for his team, Martin Necas does fit that, because right now he's the best player for the Carolina Hurricanes, with guys like Aho and Svechnikov who are still slowly coming in their way. Seth Jarvis was hurt for about 7 games, but they were still finding ways to score, finding a way to win games. He was, like I said, multi-point goals over already 12 times in a span of 22 games at one point. And the fact that he has put himself into a spot where he's the first Hurricane since Rod Burnhamore to lead the league, to be either tied or outright lead since 2006. The first Czech player to do it since 2015. That was Jacob Voracek. So it's something where you have to put him in Hart conversations where, okay, I was like, well, this guy was MVP for his team. Well, yeah, but he's on a team with guys that are super good as well, like Makar and Ranton. We're talking about Nathan McKinnon here. Or you're talking about Connor McDavid, but he's got, Hyman, Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman. So it's one of those things where if you're looking at a guy who's not the bigger names that you usually hear about, oh, this is a guy for the Hart, Martin Necas should be that guy, because you're looking at a player who's really stepped up for the Hurricanes this year when they really needed it, and he's been the driving force of the team. So that's why him getting the first star of the month makes sense for how good he's been, and that's why it makes all the difference of how he's been playing for the Carolina Hurricanes, and it's just that's why he's more than deserving to being the first star of November when it comes to the NHL. And I know I wrote an article on the Hockey Irish talking about who the 3 stars of the month were for the Hurricanes. I said I could use Martin Necas, but that you could just keep saying him every single month for articles like that. So you kind of want to put some shine on some other guys as well. But obviously, it goes without saying Martin Necas is the first star for the Hurricanes, for the league in general. It just makes sense because of how good he's playing. So massive props to number 88 for just how well he's been playing. And you're hoping that despite not getting points in the last 2 games against the Florida Panthers, hopefully this is not he goes into a rut, but he's like, okay, first game in December is on Tuesday. Let's just kick another point streak going, and that's hopefully what we see. But like I said, big congratulations to Martin Necas. Well-deserved for him being the first star of November. But guys, that will wrap up my Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen of the day. For your second listen, make sure to find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with everything that I got going on, covering your Carolina Hurricanes, well, you can check me out at One True Zach on X. The podcast is L_Hurricanes. I am also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin. If you want to check me out over there, I do have a link tree in both my bios where you can find my articles at the Hockey Writers, or just go to thehockeywriters.com, search for my author page at Zach Martin. Then you can find all of my articles over there talking about your Carolina Hurricanes. If you search Locked On Hurricanes on all podcast platforms, YouTube, or on Spotify or Apple, stuff like that. Make sure to go, like I said, check it out. Leave a 5-star review so I can leave it so I can read it on the show for you guys. On YouTube, Locked On Hurricanes. Make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification, leave a thumbs up, and let me know if you like the show as well. And let me know what your thoughts are on Martin Necas getting the first star of November and just giving him some congratulations. And what do you think that the Hurricanes might need to focus on? And I already know it's going to be goaltending, but give me a reason why they need to find goaltending, and let me know what goalie you would think they should go after if they do go after one. But like I said, subscribe, hit the bell notification, leave a thumbs up rating, let me know if you like the show as well. Share it with all other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But like I said, I hope everyone enjoyed this Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hope everyone enjoys their Monday. Happy December. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.